they will take the more difficult route that will jeopardize the standing of the British royal family if they have to do that.
All right, stick with me. You and I are about to witness the wildest Buckingham Palace balcony appearance ever. This spot usually screams absolute unity and stability, but today it turned into a total real-life nightmare. Live on camera, right in front of thousands of fans, Prince William suddenly drops a brutal signal to royal security. They march straight up to Camilla and physically escort her right off that balcony. Dead silence. Zero PR spin. Zero polite smiles. Just a cold, brutal command executed in front of the entire watching world. But the hidden story behind this insane public takedown, it gets much darker. Enter the highly classified Camilla Files, a top-secret dossier exposing massive allegations of internal sabotage and dark manipulation of palace staff. She was allegedly hijacking major kingdom decisions that only the king and his advisors should make. The tension hits an absolute breaking point when William unearths a private letter from the late Queen Elizabeth II. A buried warning straight from the royal archives. It got so bad that Parliament actually called a massive historic vote. What the hell did William actually find in those specific files to risk blowing up the royal family on live television? So what do you and I make of this? Was Camilla just a pawn or the mastermind of a massive, unrevealed power grab? Flashback to the balcony. Even that warm London sunlight couldn't hide the freezing tension leaking out from those heavy stone palace walls. Right up there on that grand balcony, the ultimate symbol of absolute royal authority, the core family stands completely together. Down below, an endless ocean of cheering fans waving flags. The public desperately wanted unity after the brutal chaos following the Queen's passing in 2022. Right in the very center, King Charles looks completely drained. Heavy exhaustion literally carved into his aged face. He just keeps staring off into space, looking exactly like a man carrying the entire kingdom on his breaking back. And standing right beside him is Camilla, the woman who clawed her way up from secret mistress to the official queen consort. Flashing a perfect radiant smile, waving that gloved hand like an absolute pro. She always knew exactly how to completely dominate the room. You and I both know the vibe she gives off. Pure power meticulously built from decades of dodging scandals. Over on the king's left, Prince William stands incredibly rigid, in a flawless pressed military uniform. Right next to him, Princess Catherine, the literal definition of grace and royal perfection. But look closer. Even though she's keeping up that trademark gentle smile, her eyes are hiding some serious heavy sorrow. Ever since the sudden staff shakeups completely gutted her Kensington Palace office in early 2026, Catherine was basically being iced out of all the major royal decisions. Her power completely stripped down, turning the vibe between her William and the Queen Consort absolutely freezing cold. Then the heavy clock tower chimes echo out, the grand finale of the entire ceremony. Protocol dictates they all just bow, give one last wave, and safely head back inside the palace walls. But William doesn't do the routine nod. He makes one tiny sharp motion with his right hand, a completely secret command perfectly locked in exactly 3 days prior. The very second he finally cracked open that highly classified royal dossier. Trust me, you're not ready for this. Suddenly, 4 royal security guards. Stick with me, you are about to witness the ultimate royal takedown. Guards stepped forward with absolute purpose. Click, clack. The sharp echo of their heavy leather shoes hitting the stone felt completely menacing. This sudden entrance was never part of the script planned by the royal team. Down below, the massive crowd started whispering. Those happy cheers instantly turned into total chaos as everyone sensed something was very wrong. King Charles III turned around in pure shock, his mouth opening as if to speak, but the words caught in his throat under his oldest son's icy glare. William refused to even look at his father. He took one heavy step forward, totally closing the gap between himself and Camilla. In that exact second, the queen consort's fake smile vanished. Her eyes went wide, showing pure shock and a rare flash of actual fear as two massive guards stopped, right next to her, trapping her in an unbreakable grip. William just stood there, hands tightly clasped. Behind his back, his chin raised high, radiating absolute boss energy. He did not say a single word, yet his silence hit harder than any shouted threat. He remembered those exact reports of how Camilla had secretly replaced loyal royal staff with her own shady pawns manipulating the daily news to directly sabotage Catherine. Over the last 6 months, every single move she made was like a poisoned dagger straight into the heart of the monarchy he was sworn to protect. Suddenly, one guard leaned forward, his strong arm. Now watch this boss move closely. He points straight at the palace doors, not an invite but an absolute forced command hidden behind polite royal protocol. Camilla frantically looked around, desperately searching for help from her husband, but the king was totally frozen by the savage reality playing out right before him. She tried to hold on to her last shred of pride, fixing her hat, but her shoulders were visibly shaking underneath her expensive designer coat. Step by step, completely locked down by the elite security forces, Camilla was forced to turn away from the massive crowd and that windy balcony. Her shadowy figure slowly vanished straight into the shadows behind those doors, leaving behind a massive empty space and tension you could cut with a knife. William, standing completely silent above that screaming crowd, proved one thing. This was a future king, finally ready to take the throne. He stared dead ahead at the London skyline, his eyes glowing cold as tempered steel. This look screamed that the days of playing nice were over, and a ruthless new era had officially begun. The trap was set perfectly, every single hidden card exposed to the light. And William knew deep down that from this second forward, there was absolutely zero chance of turning back. Let us jump back 3 days. You and I need to see this. William sat frozen, glaring at a navy blue leather file sitting right in front of him. His most trusted guy had left with a quick bow, leaving. Behind a room, suffocating with the foul stench of betrayal, right on the cover, the words, Camilla Files burned like a wicked curse on the tiny bit of peace he fought so hard to keep. His fingers were literally shaking as he flipped open that first page. Boom! Line after line of secret meeting notes spilled out, exposing a insane web of royal manipulation he never even saw coming. His brain started flashing back to weird moments from the past. Good guys suddenly quitting over fake health issues, highly suspicious staff swaps inside the royal council, and vital facts getting totally twisted before they even reached his father's ears. None of this was just bad luck. Camilla was playing chess, secretly planting her pawns everywhere, hijacking massive decisions that belonged only to the actual king, to selfishly boost her own dark power and influence. Pure fiery rage started sparking deep inside, William's chest burning him alive. A crazy chill shot right down his spine when he found the documents detailing the brutal budget, cuts, and the targeted blockades stopping Catherine from shining at major global events. Top secret memos proved the Queen Consort made direct phone calls to aggressively limit the princessy of Wales's royal schedule, forcing her to hide in the shadows during big moments. William balled his fists, nails cutting into his skin just to choke back a furious roar. He saw his wife's tired face from recent weeks, remembering her quiet hints about feeling totally alone inside her own family. Catherine's silent suffering finally had a name, a guilty villain. Camilla was not just leveling up her own status, she was slowly destroying. The true heir's power makes you think right. The deeper he dug into those files, the worse it got. Stick with me. Her toxic meddling in the king's official decisions was out of control. Top royal advisors sidelined, replaced entirely by the queen consort's sneaky late-night pillow talk. This wasn't just basic family drama. It was a massive attack on the royal rulebook. A straight-up hostile threat to the very crown Prince William swore to defend with his life. His burning anger. It vanished, morphing into ice-cold focus. William hit his desk, flipping. The pages dead slow, permanently burning every name and timeline into his brain. That fake smiling stepmother, gone. Now he was looking at a cutthroat political villain quietly dragging their sacred legacy through the mud. He gripped that massive dossier. Suddenly it wasn't just a stack of files anymore. It was a weapon, bulletproof evidence for the massive purge coming next. The final page slammed, shut in the dead quiet room. William leaned back, closed his eyes, his mind sharper than a blade. He knew, right then. That tiny, fragile string of trust between him and Camilla totally shattered. The ultimate boundary had been crossed. He wouldn't let her take a single step further into his territory. In the dead of that night, his eyes practically glowed with unstoppable resolve. This wasn't just about keeping Catherine safe and their kids. He was prepping for an all-out war to save the crown. A savage master plan started forming. Zero doubt. No mercy. The dark truth in those files had finally become his. Watch closely. Now, this evidence pushed him toward a jaw-dropping move the world would witness in absolute silence. The royal family was rotting from the inside out. And William realized that to save his grand legacy, he had to slice away the toxic parasites, quietly sucking its lifeblood dry. He stayed up all night in his office. Total darkness swallowed the massive palace, pierced only by one single desk lamp. The light hit pages stacked heavy with insane data and secret staff charts. The further he dug into this web of secrets, a heavy choking pressure hit him he could barely process. This wasn't some loud military coup. It was a completely silent, absolutely ruthless takeover. Like poison creeping over stone, slowly erasing the true power of the heirs. William's intense gaze locked onto a budget chart comparing the pure number of public events and cash flow between Camilla's dark ops and his own royal team. The math was brutal. Through 2025, Catherine's biggest international trips, the ones focused heavily on her absolute passion for kids, got delayed or crushed. The excuse? Some fake sketchy safety. You knew it right, total setup. Right below that was the raw, undeniable proof that Camilla hijacked those exact dates, forcefully slotting in her own glory moments instead. Exclusive backdoor parties at Clarence's house, with massive political elites, people who definitely belong to the king or the crown prince. Pain hit his chest, picturing Catherine on those early mornings prepping her speeches, just to get a brutal last-second call, wiping the event. He remembered the quiet, anxious look on her face, completely doubting herself, wondering what she messed up. Turns out the puppet master was Camilla. She expertly manipulated the media and royal cash, making absolutely sure Catherine's star power never eclipsed the dark empire she viciously built. The mind games were so completely flawless it made Catherine blame herself instead of spotting the villain. His hand slammed down on leaked emails between their secret staff. The wording 100% perfectly polite, but dripping with absolute ice-cold venom. Direct orders told allied media networks to restrict William's legendary projects while aggressively painting Camilla as the ultimate savior of the crown, the king's supreme untouchable right hand. Camilla wasn't just defending her current throne, she was secretly rewriting the entire royal hierarchy. A timeline where Prince William's orders were basically meaningless background noise against her final say. This giant crack inside the family wasn't just some awkward argument anymore. It morphed into a brutal, bloody war for survival. William finally realized it. Camilla successfully forged a shadow kingdom right inside the palace. Trust me, you'll want to see him destroy her ultimate gatekeeper status. Let's dive right into some absolute royal madness. King Charles III, worn down, exhausted by the crown. He had become dangerously dependent on the one woman always right there by his side. But every gentle whisper, it was a trap, slowly pulling him away from his real advisors and his own flesh and blood. By dawn, William's anger wasn't exploding anymore. It had settled into pure, deadly ice. He started taking notes, not complaining but forming sharp counterattacks. He broke down how key royal charity appointments were heavily manipulated by Camilla. She was stacking the deck with her loyalists. He watched his own influence drop not just inside the palace walls, but right in the eyes of Westminster politicians. They were starting to see the Queen Consort as the ultimate VIP access pass, way better than the rightful heir. William slammed that file of manipulations shut, and right then it hit him hard. He and Catherine were completely isolated. They were standing on an island totally surrounded by a rising tide of massive deceit. But wait! Instead of fear, a brand new strength erupted inside him. This bitter truth, it just ripped off the final mask. Playing nice for the greater good. That was basically just helping the enemy now. Helping the exact person actively destroying the monarchy's foundations. This quiet little internal war. Now, pay attention here because Camilla chose a ruthless power game. And William, as the final protector of Elizabeth's legacy, knew exactly what to do. End this game before it was too late. The setup for an all-out legitimate counterattack was fully in motion. Zero mercy this time around. Drowning under those heavy personnel files and shady financial reports, William desperately needed a quiet second to catch his breath. Down in the dead silence of the royal archives, surrounded by huge stone walls that held centuries of history, smelling like old paper and dried ink, he searched for some ancient guidance. Every dark secret of the monarchy was buried right here. It's where he always went to feel that lingering connection to his late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. Looking through those carefully labeled oak boxes, he stopped dead in his tracks. A small drawer stamped with the Queen's personal crest. His fingers brushed past smooth envelopes. Then he felt it. A piece of paper with that exact unique texture of the custom stationery she always used at Balmoral. Not official state business, a private letter, maybe a rough draft, or a totally unsent reflection written in her delicate but iron-willed handwriting during her very last years. I know exactly what you're thinking. What did it actually say? Reading it, William's heart completely dropped. No diplomatic chatter? No boring state ceremony talk? Just the deeply worried thoughts of a monarch terrified about the crown's future after she was gone. The Queen wrote about long-term fitness for duty, the insane weight of the crown, and her massive fear that personal relationships could totally blind the throne. She kept the words polite, sure, but her warnings about Camilla's role and the desperate need for strict boundaries to protect the heir loud and clear. William collapsed into the old wooden chair. He could literally feel the freezing stone floor creeping right up his legs. He read that part again and again. The part doubting if Camilla digging her claws deep into the power structure would bring real stability or just give the king a fake sense of comfort. To William, this wasn't some random coincidence. It was absolute confirmation from beyond the grave. He realized the Queen, with all her legendary wisdom and fierce protective instincts, had spotted the very first seeds of this exact manipulation. Pure emotion flooded through him, mixing with an unbreakable new resolve. He flashed back to those quiet afternoons at Windsor. She always told him the crown was a massive sacrifice, never ever a weapon for personal greed. This hidden letter was the very last piece of the puzzle. Proof that his bad feelings weren't just jealousy, they were a dead-on rightful. Intuition passed down from the longest reigning boss in all of British history. William's movements shifted. Cold. Deliberate. He didn't fold it up right away. He left it wide open on the table, tracing the old creases, absorbing every single ounce of hidden strength from those warnings locked inside, any last shadow of doubt in his mind completely gone. So, what do you and I make of this? If the files proved it, staying silent means betraying the crown entirely. The very legacy she had spent her entire life building. He finally stood up, grabbed that letter, and held it tight. His gaze locked right onto the archive door, staring straight through the dim, heavy corridors of the royal palace. Stick with me here. The upcoming balcony appearance wasn't a choice anymore, it was absolute duty. The late Queen's letter became an invisible, undeniable royal command, giving him the ultimate confidence to face Parliament and even his own father head on. William slammed that drawer shut. He walked out of those dusty archives, completely transformed, head held incredibly high. His shoulders were squared, and pure icy determination echoed in every single footstep. The past had finally spoken. And right now, as the guardian of the future, it was his moment to deliver real, ruthless justice for the crown. The harsh hallway light hit his face, perfectly bright, intense, and absolutely unyielding. He was fully prepared to expose this massive truth, whatever the cost. Meanwhile, the heavy silence inside that locked meeting room, over at Westminster Palace, carried a totally different, terrifying weight compared to the quiet royal halls. William sat dead center at the massive table directly facing the top party leaders, and even the absolute highest legal advisors in the entire kingdom. The explosive Camilla dossier, alongside the late Queen Elizabeth's, the secret letter lay wide open. William did not need any flashy speeches. He let the brutal truth speak through raw concrete. Now pay close attention here. This was pure evidence of systemic manipulation. He just watched those faces staring back at him. Total shock flashed in the eyes of veteran politicians. Deep frowns, the frantic, nervous sound of pages being aggressively flipped. Absolute chaos erupted right after. Even though William kept his mind completely blank, in that split second he could feel the vicious battle between cowards wanting to protect the status quo from a media firestorm and those bold enough to see the monarchy was literally rotting away. William sat perfectly straight, his hands tightly locked together, right on the polished wood. He stayed completely silent, but his sheer presence crushed the room with massive pressure. His cold stare drilled into every single person, testing their true loyalty to the crown. And then he quickly noticed the clear panic from MPs close to King Charles. They were terrified a royal family meltdown would completely shatter the nation. But once the ugly details of Camilla meddling in top-tier personnel drops, and how she actively restricted the rightful heir's power were fully exposed, the entire room shifted violently in just one direction. The tension hit absolute max when those lawyers started ripping apart the constitutional clauses regarding titles and the actual role of a queen consort. William felt a dark, cold satisfaction as his aggressive logic finally took over. This wasn't some petty revenge mission. He was forcing a massive constitutional correction just to protect the entire future of the royal bloodline. His iron will convinced even the oldest politicians that brutally stripping Camilla of her formal status wasn't betraying King Charles at all. It was a desperate rescue of the crown. You and I both know how tense these moments get. The voting began suffocating the room. William's heartbeat stayed rock solid. He didn't even glance at those ballot boxes. Instead, he just stared out the window watching the Grey River Thames flow by. He knew this historic, shocking move could permanently destroy his relationship with his father. But Queen Elizabeth II's letter was his ultimate, completely unbreakable spiritual shield. Then the final result dropped, an absolute crushing majority. Parliament actually passed the motion. They completely stripped Camilla of every single official role and shred of administrative power inside the entire royal system. She'd keep a personal title, sure, but it was a totally empty shell. Zero authority to interfere with the nation ever again. This was a flawless, absolutely ruthless political takedown. William gave a single icy nod to the room and casually walked out of the stuffy room. The crushing weight on his shoulders felt just a bit lighter now. Parliament had built a massive legal wall that Camilla could never climb. Everything was perfectly set. The absolute seal of power was locked in. Now he just had to drag this dark secret into the blazing public eye. Right where all the royal magic starts and finishes the legendary balcony of Buckingham Palace. He slid into his black luxury car, mind, already racing toward the final explosive chapter of this historic royal purge. The London sky suddenly turned pitch grey. Massive dark clouds rolled in, practically crushing the insanely heavy atmosphere right above Buckingham Palace. Getting back to that truly fateful second, William just... "So what do you and I make of this?" He stood frozen, listening to the roaring crowds below. "Stick with me. You and I are about to watch a brutal royal takedown." Pure burning resolve pushed him forward. It was time for the final blow. Camilla was completely boxed in by guards, looking suddenly small and helpless against those bright red uniforms. Her face, usually locked behind flawless makeup and fake smiles, now completely shattered into pieces of raw, undeniable panic. Total shock. Pure fury. She silently collapsed the second she saw that official parliamentary document with the red seal in the aide's hands. She instantly realized she wasn't just getting kicked off the balcony, but violently ripped away from the ultimate royal power, the power she spent her life stealing. William approached the mic. Set up for royal speeches, he didn't rush. His gaze swept across tens of thousands of utterly shocked faces, cameras aimed at him like loaded weapons. His voice echoed out no standard royal greetings today, but rather a "watch closely." He dropped a ruthless declaration announcing Parliament's massive decision to officially strip away all of Camilla's royal status. Each word hit slowly and clearly, booming through speakers and broadcasting live to the entire planet. His absolute authority right then felt exactly like a true king, performing brutal, painful surgery to save the living body of the monarchy itself. He demanded pure integrity, declaring that real royal power must completely belong to the ones who serve the public, not shady internal manipulators. Even though he avoided directly naming those Camilla Files, out loud, every chosen word was a sharp blade violently slicing open the heavy veil that had hidden those toxic schemes. Behind him, King Charles III looked like he aged 10 whole years in mere minutes. He stood there completely frozen. Tears filled his eyes as he helplessly watched his own wife being escorted away. William knew his dad was enduring totally heart-crushing agony, but he refused to show even a drop of weakness. He stood right between his father and Camilla, an unbreakable wall separating a blind, dark past from a crystal-clear future. Catherine stepped closer, gently placing her hand on his arm. It was a totally silent gesture, but packed with absolute loyalty. That warm touch was his only lifeline, keeping him totally grounded during the massive political earthquake he just set off. You felt that right. As Camilla finally vanished behind those grand doors, a heavy, strange silence choked the square for a few seconds before sound exploded. Not just casual cheering, but a completely overwhelming mix of pure shock and massive applause for the prince's courage. William stared directly into the camera. Lenses. His eyes weren't burning with fiery anger anymore, just the icy calm of an absolute boss who finished his mission. He turned around, giving his dad a tiny nod. It was a silent apology, but also a hardcore guarantee that a brand new era had begun. This crazy balcony drama didn't finish with some fancy parade. It ended with the powerful image of William standing like a rock in the center, completely united with Catherine and their kids. The power balance within the British royal family was permanently shattered and rebuilt. Those dark, manipulative shadows got completely expelled, kicking off a brand new era, way harsher, but infinitely more just. Standing there in the fading twilight, the invisible crown resting on his head shined brighter than ever before. He officially protected his grandmother's legendary legacy and his wife's honor. A totally new chapter of history just dropped, written in ice-cold determination and deep, unwavering loyalty to the monarchy. His heavy footsteps echoed across the stone floor, sending a massive warning that from today on, pure integrity would be the only law ruling Buckingham Palace. After watching all this madness unfold, do you think Prince William's insanely decisive action up on that balcony proved he is a future king, fiercely defending the absolute integrity of his empire, or a ruthless move destroying his family? What do you and I make of this? Tell me in the comments below. Smash that like, share, and subscribe button for more epic royal drama. Also click the next video on your screen. Trust me, it's wild.